Okay, we are live again. This is the fourth day. So, first, second, and third day, we did get a lot done. But it's moving a lot slower than I thought it would move. Still, working out. So I'm going to show you what we have so far. And then we'll go over the plan for today. And it's not completely planned out. I just have a checklist where I'm able to look back and kind of adapt to whatever problems we have. Let me make sure first I get the chat set up. So let me do that now. YouTube live control panel. Don't think I need to log in because I'm already logged in. Okay, it says excellent. It says logged in, but I don't see the chat. I will show you what I see. So once again, might as well just use the YouTube actual chat because it lets you comment. Okay, there we go. Hi. Just typed hi. And I'll mute this. This should say one view because I'm on the chat. Maybe it doesn't count because I am me. Okay, chat is set up. At bitrate, that's okay. Alright, chat set up. I should be able to see what's going on. Might as well begin. Okay, so what we have so far is the EA forward tester. And the way that this forward tester works, this skill, is you type EA, and so far we only have 2 of those skills, and we've been struggling for the past 3 days to make sure that this skill works really well. Now basically this is an index, and I've said this before, but for anyone new for the first time, this is the main skill, and this is a sub-skill. And this sub-skill basically gets triggered when you run the main skill, so you don't have to always trigger the correct sub-skill. You can just type EA really quick, even without the caps, right? And then next thing you know, it will choose the correct one moving forward. And then that way you don't have to really worry about all the different skills. You can just tell it that this is what you want to do. But for this to actually work and be useful, we need to have a bunch of different sub skills to handle all of the things that we want to do. And what do we want to do? Create EAs. So this is not about getting AI to trade for me. This is about getting AI to do everything that is possible for creating an algorithm within the constraints of the MCP, which there's not that many constraints anyway. There's actually a lot of freedom that you can do. You could even get it to trade for you, but that's just not what we're doing right now. Okay, so I'm going to try it out. I'm going to use this skill, and the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to say use the EA skill. I'm not going to type the main actual sub skill. I'm going to say use the EA skill to run a short walk forward test. Make it short because this is just testing the the skill itself. I choose which EA should we go? Oh, yeah. Use the adaptive moving average. Actually, I'll just say this. I'll just let that happen and let it figure it out. Maybe it'll choose a good EA and a good currency pair, or it'll probably just default to whatever we've been doing before, which is the adaptive moving average EA, which, by the way, once it's all set up, I want to work on that EA, and it's already promising, and I really like the performance of it, even though it's not done. So the strategy is, I would say, like 60% there. I just did the bare minimum to see, like, does it have edge? Does it not? Seems like it does. And I actually ran, this is interesting. I ran something called the Auto Run, which is another program that I'm developing that just calculates simply whether or not you have edge. And it does a bunch of different testing. All the testing, like walk forward is one of them, but different permutation testing. Basically, it'll take the parameter set, adjust it slightly, and then see if small adjustments to the parameters kill the EA, the performance really. And if you did manage to do that and then lose the performance of the EA, basically you're overfitting without a doubt. But if it does survive with some changes, then the strategy itself is actually, it does have edge. That's one of the types of testing that it does. And it just goes through all the options with testing. But the auto run software, I guess it's not just the skills, the software, because there's a lot going on, and it's using the GPU, is still a little flaky, which is why I don't want to rely on it too much. But it's pretty cool. Might as well show you while this is running and we're testing it. Oh, I've been saying auto run, my bad. It's called the auto tester, not the auto run. And this is something we'll probably work on a lot more detail later on. But can I say ran this? Might as well check this really quickly because this is the skill that I'm building. These are the cores. I'll come back to why this is important, but make a really long story short before I continue showing you this 67% over here. The CPU has 16 cores. The GPU has thousands, 4,000, I think 800 or 900 to be precise, or more precise. And if you could use your GPU cores, which don't come in at like 3.8 gigahertz, which is a lot faster than cores of the GPU. The GPU comes in at, I think, 1 point something. We can check later to get the exact number. But you have literally like more than 4,500 of them. And you can run all those simulations simultaneously. And so you can do a lot more testing, get the results a lot faster. Where something like this, 16 cores, would take you, say, 24 hours. The GPU could literally do it in a couple of minutes. That's how much of a difference it is if you fully use your GPU. MT5 doesn't let you use your GPU, which is why I'm building this auto run, which kind of works. Technically, look, it works right now, but like I said, it's flaky. It's I didn't go over all the numbers. I just told Fable do everything. This is what I mean by everything, and I know what I want. And so it goes and it does everything, but I can't just say it's done because I didn't check everything one by one. Sometimes it looks like it gets it right, sometimes it doesn't. And something built into this, by the way, is the MCP result is used as an oracle. And what that means is it will do one test using actual MT5, get the results, full results, and then do the test using the GPU, get those results, and if they don't match exactly, well, then it gets classified as a failure. So fail, right? And if that happens, then there's something within the logic that was created wrong. And now you might be wondering, okay, what does that mean? It's the same EA. Well, that's the thing. The MT5 editor. So if I go on MT5 and I open the editor, where is it? The IDE. This over here, this program, right? What it does is it compiles, it takes your MQL5 code, this code, and runs it, right? That's closed source. That's so closed source that you just don't have access to it. And so what I had to do in order to use the GPU is basically recreate it alongside the recreation of all of these. Hold on. These different types of tests. Not all of them, but these ones and other ones, so that I could get actually useful results. And that's what this is. And so because there's so many different variables, and because you have to take the EA itself and then transpile it, which I keep in mind, like I'm new to this, like there's so many things going on, compile, transpile, all this stuff. You're basically taking the code and rewriting it, or yeah, see, that's why I want to study this a lot more before I really get into it and make that the project. But from my understanding so far, is it's taking the code, the MQL5 code, converting it into Python, and then running it using the GPU, because you're gonna need the Python if you're gonna use the GPU. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Yeah. Now I did run, like I said, the adaptive moving average through the is it this one? I think it's this one, yeah. Oh, is it running again now? Oh, it's this one. Okay. So I did run it through the this massive test everything software, and it did survive. It has edge. Now it doesn't go and find the optimal parameter set for you. It just goes and tests all sorts of different parameters and then shows you that oracle, right? The one that it used. And even the oracle survived. So if I click on full view, this is kind of the performance that you got. Definitely, there definitely needs to be some adjustments to UI. This is supposed to be an equity curve. And for some reason, these don't work. Called granularity, what I called it. The 1 minute, 5 minute, 35 minute. Yeah, anyway, we're getting a little carried away. But long story short, apparently this has edge, even though it's not complete. So it's definitely worth spending a lot more time on once we do actually get the results. Oh, I forgot about this, the wizard. I have to choose the spans. I'll choose last 3 months, make it extremely short. Actually, I'll choose last 12 months, and I'll go with that 1 month. All right, so now we're doing that walk forward overlap test. And if I choose 1 month windows over a 12-month duration, it should be 23 windows. Is it? Because 12 times 2 and then like -1 because you don't have last month. I don't see that anywhere. One problem that we've been having is some EAs are compatible while others are not, and that can be problematic because ideally you can use this on any EA. And then another thing that's important is the data, like the tick data. What's happening is it's a loophole. Like we're basically exploiting a loophole where, well, where we do this, we create kind of like synthetic, not even synthetic, we just make up these symbols, put in the tick data, but then choose the date deliberately. And then what ends up happening is it runs those tests on these fake symbols, basically with the true data that we want. And then what ends up happening is you actually end up using your cores, these cores that I was talking about. So you end up being able to run a test with all your cores as opposed to just one, which is the default mode and the only mode really for testing with MT5. Now you might be wondering, okay, if that's the case, then why do they have all these cores? That's for the genetic testing and the slow optimization testing. Those tests use all the cores, but all the other tests don't. And so we're just saying, okay, you could, if you wanted to, MT5, and then we're doing it. What we added last session is, I hope it actually works, is the cleanup. So it should go and clean these up after it's done. Most of them are just left behind from before, but so these newly generated symbols, we don't have too many custom symbols, and then just fills up with these custom symbols. What does it say here? Step 0, fresh.opt, okay. Parallel dispatch proven, cool. That's the whole thing we want to do. It's going to save so much time with testing. Literal hack. I guess not literal, but it's basically a hack. I watched this TikTok of a guy a long time ago saying hack doesn't mean like to go and crack something. There's a word for that, cracker. Somebody who goes and cracks like into a system. Hacker is just a person who, has a problem, wants to get something done on the computer and just hacks away at the keyboard until it's done. But then for some reason the term changed. We're hacking, like if it's the old meaning, this is a hack. We're repurposing something that MT5 has given. Like it's a feature that exists. MT5 provides this feature, but then we're just using it in a different way. So that instead of using one core, use all the cores that are available. Cut the time in by at least 16x for testing. Oh, I hear my fans. I think it's happening. I think it happened. So I think happened. Alright, you see it. Got all these tests. Yep, those are the tests. All agents were used, and they just, well, 14 of them were used because I have 2 disabled. These are the fake symbols, the new fake symbols. And for this stream at least, I'm gonna, if it doesn't remove the newly generated fake symbols, I'm just gonna leave it for outside the stream and fix it later tonight so that next stream we can actually move on and finally get to the EA creation tools. So long as it actually produces the visualizer that I want, successfully, then we'll just keep it. And I'll fix it later, the little cleanup task. Because you really don't want to be left behind, or you don't want to leave behind a bunch of fake symbols. It'll mess up everything in the future. Even if it's named correctly and it says like W, like because window, because it's taking a bunch of windows, combining them. All that will make sense once you see the visualizer, because the visualizer clearly shows the windows. Oh, we got 2 viewers. Hi. Let me know if anything is confusing. Or if anything doesn't make sense. To make a really long story short, we're just speeding up 2 things. One, the connection of the MCP. So MT5, if you don't know, has released an MCP, which means you can connect Claude directly to MT5 and then have Claude do anything for you, like trade. Even trading is allowed now. You can literally prompt Claude and say, buy, this size lot, this currency now. Click enter, and then MT5 will react and it'll give you like a approve now message, or approve, and then you approve, and then it goes. But we're not doing that. What we're doing is we're automating the process of creating an EA, just an EA, not trading. So it'll pull up the MQ, the editor, basically the place where all the code goes, and it will see it. There will be a direct connection always, and then that way you can easily say modify the EA, add this feature, do this to the strategy, actually let's not use the stop loss, let's use a stop order of the other side to hedge, and then just like that it's done, and you don't have to go around moving a bunch of code all the time. If you watch the old videos I made, all of them outdated, you had to go say provide a full version of the code, then you copy the code, paste it into the editor, click compile, and if you get a bunch of errors, then you have to go copy all those errors, paste them back into GPT I was using at the time, and say fix it. Provide a complete version of the code again, but fixed. All that's already gone. That's already gone, because you can just connect it using the MCP. It's like a little code to connect them, but it's expensive. It takes so many tokens. Why does it take so many tokens? Because it has to sift through all the different features. And what I've done is I've actually documented all the features. These are the different features. So every time you tell Claude to do anything for MT5, it goes and it checks the entire index, all of these. Like this is one of the options it has, get workspace info. This is another one, list directory, right? Delete file, all these stuff. Start open. That's how you open, that's how Claude knows to open a chart, right? Get trading info for position. Let's see if we can find place and order like trade. Oh, here's the trading ones. Trade send market order. Trade send pending order. Yeah, so all these options exist. And even if I'm only trying to build an EA and I just wanted to focus on only the IDE and the code and run a backtest for me, it still has to go every single time and index the entire reference chart, because there's no algorithm, not like the trading algobot. Like there's no algorithm that says, okay, forget about the entire reference. You already know exactly what your command is. Do this and then this and this. That would cost dramatically less tokens. More importantly, it will always get it right every single time because it knows exactly what it needs to do. So that's what we're building now. And we're turning it into a skill. And the skill is basically called EA. And then obviously there's going to be a bunch of sub skills. And then those sub skills, right now we only have one, which we're testing, which should be done. But then there's going to be all the other sub skills, the EA sub skills. But you can always still only type EA and it should work. All right, is it done? I think it's done. Okay, it said couldn't provide. I think that's a Claude issue, not can't see the image. I'm gonna screenshot actually, just to give it more context. All right, that's a Claude issue, not a skill issue, and it should be able to fix it quite easily. If you have the same problem, by the way, I know the reason for it. It's because I put my... Okay, we got it, nice. But really quick, I put my Claude in its own folder called the dev folder in my C drive. And the reason I did that is because I want to always keep bypass permissions enabled. I want it to have full control always of all the folders that it creates, basically. But I don't want it to be on my C drive in the same folder that all my other programs are in. So that way it's at least self-contained enough that I can just have it go for it, do whatever you want, without really risking all my other programs and everything else. So sometimes when you adjust the root folder, you have these sorts of silly little issues where every once in a while, unfortunately, it looks like that. Okay. Nice. So we got the results and they look good. And obviously they didn't not profitable because we just ran it with no settings. And because it's the stock EA. So this is the expert MACD, the MACD. So this is like every MT5 just comes with this expert advisor. We just ran it with our overlapping forward test. I want to say no problem, but no problem enough that we can finally move on. We'll move on. Like I said, if the cleanup wasn't successful, I'll just fix that on my own later, so we can begin the second sub skill. I think it was successful. It was. Okay, nice. The reason I have all these other symbols is because I have data from Dukascopy. I have data from After Prime and from the other one called Histo something. So because I have all sorts of different data, I get to see all the data here in the symbols. But yeah, these ones, the ones that we ran the test on, were successfully removed. Okay, we can move on. We can finally move on. I'm gonna say we're moving on. All right. All right, I'm gonna say create a new sub skill called EA IDE, which opens the IDE and checks for the available EAs that are currently open in the IDE. When this skill is triggered, actually I'll do this. Add the functions that add the functions of the MCP which allow you to control the IDE. I'm gonna also say create new EAs, delete existing EAs, duplicate EAs. So these are the actual functions that I want. And even if that function doesn't exist as a dedicated function, by the way, of the MCP, I still want to include that function, and then, you know, Fable will figure out how to make that an actual function. It just does that. So this is more about the purpose, even though the way that I typed it, the way that I framed it, I'm saying like add the functions from the MCP. So I framed it like get this from the MCP. If this doesn't exist in the MCP, it's gonna reason and think, okay, this needs to exist anyway, and I need to use the MCP anyway. Let me create the algorithm and maybe put two functions, layer them together, and consider it one, something like that, and it'll get it done. That's what I think will happen. Okay, so that's why I'm framing it like that. And I said, add the functions of the MCP which allow you to control the IDE. And then here's just the things that I actually wanted to do. Create a new EAs. Delete, that's supposed to be a D. Delete existing EAs. Duplicate EAs. Oh, wrong zoom button. Duplicate EAs and modify EAs. Now there's probably some stuff that I'm not thinking of, but I want Fable to bring them in. Like that's how you fully take advantage of the fact that this is a giant index of everything. That's the training data. So I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say if there are any other functions related to assisting me through the creation. Should I use creation? Yeah, okay, creation of a new EA. Or any other functions related to assisting me through that are available, I'm gonna just put in brackets. Available within the API calls from the MCP, include them. Now I'm going to speak to the purpose, because when you speak to the purpose of like, why are we doing this, then Fable really does kind of have the authority to be like, and make executive decisions to be like, all right, we're going to change a little bit over here just to make it actually achieve the purpose. In what? In the text that I wrote. So that's like a nice little trick to always make sure that even if you're really specific, you're not wrong. Because sometimes when you go too specific, what you end up doing is you end up being wrong. You say do this way, but it's not the best way. Or there's a logical flaw. I don't think there's a logical flaw, but I still want to add that because it'll help hiding the purpose. Okay, so now I'm going to add the purpose. I'm going to say the purpose of this skill is to create algorithmic processes. I'm going to put in brackets clearly sequenced actions that would be used to manipulate an expert advisor. Yeah, I think we'll just keep it minimal. An expert advisor code file. Should I extend it to other scripts? No, because the different scripts like indicators and no, I should extend it. Manipulate an expert advisor code file or other MQL5 files within the editor within the IDE. But the priority is EAs. Yeah. Create a new subskill called EA IDE, which opens the IDE and checks for the available EAs that are currently open in the IDE. And manipulates. Manipulates the available EAs that are currently open in the IDE. Cool. Add the functions of the MCP to allow you to control the IDE. Create new EA, delete EA, duplicate EAs, modify EAs. Name EAs. Name / rename EAs. The reason I want that to be like a dedicated one is because I want to be able to very, very easily say, like this strategy, save it, create a new version of it where you do this and you do that. And then it just knows to like create a new EA V2 or V3. That's my actual workflow. That's why I'm adding that as one of the dedicated ones. I'm just gonna say all this exists within the EA, the /EA IDE skill. But because it's so many skills or so many functions, the .md file itself, or .skill file, skill.md or .md skill, I'm just gonna avoid that. The skill itself, skills text must be concise, concise and highly logical. And I'm not gonna put that there. I'm gonna put that down because this, yeah. All right, well, I'll put this here at a better place for it. And yes, now we're actually done. I wonder if it's going to author and auto run a bev. The reason I say that is because this could be, so this could be interpreted as like a big thing that we're doing by Fable purely because of the fact that there's so much text. And I have in my workflow and my skills, not that many skills, but skills that I built myself that have a lot of sub skills within them. Whenever something gets too big, what it will do is it will author a bev, which is bird's eye view. And it's just another skill that distinguishes between three kind of phases in every workflow, which is audit, implement, and verify. And it'll set up a plan. Like phase 1, do an audit. Phase 2, do an implementation. Phase 3, do another implementation. Phase 4, for example, do a verification. And then it'll go for however many phases you want. It'll keep everything extremely on track. And I use it usually for when it's like a difficult, not necessarily difficult, but long project, so that the Claude, the large language model, doesn't drift too far away and do something else that happens. You know, happens. It'll just decide, okay, now we're doing this new thing. Seems like we should do it. It has nothing to do with what we want. Oh, did it? Did it do it? Did it author and auto run a bev? No, it didn't. Yeah, this is light work for Fable. This is easy work. Doesn't need a bev. Okay, so it's done. Let's actually read the skill. Oh, I've never seen that before. I've never seen like an animation like this. Setting up preview. What are you previewing? I've literally never seen that. Oh, Millsy Dev, hi. 07? 07. I don't know what that means, but thank you for the engagement. Oh, 8. Right back to you. Oh, 8. All right, what is this though for real? Setting up preview. I don't know what this is. Do you know what that is? It's a salute. Well, I salute you. Oh, his head. 7 his arm. Oh. Oh, it's like this. Okay, yeah, now that makes sense. I just learned that. It's like basically the head like this. Nice. Reminds me of one time in school, someone put XD. You know, XD is like the emoji. They sent me XD, and I was like, what? XD? This was a really long time ago. Anyway, let's check the skill. So, if you're just coming in, I'm gonna give you like a really brief tell you what's going on right now. I'm building the second skill, which just makes it easy to control the the code basically. So if this is done correctly, then MQL5 can very easily be created. Teehee. What are you working on? All right, if you just got here, I'll just give you the full rundown. I'm working on a skill basically that lets you control the code for, because there's an MCP now for MT5. So MT5, to make a really long story short, has a direct connection option now where you can connect your large language model straight, literally directly to full control MT5, or yeah, Claude to MT5. So what ends up happening is you can say place a trade, and then it will go and it will place that trade. You can say create an expert advisor, like an algorithm, trading algorithm. It'll do the code, it'll do the back test, it will do everything for you. And by everything, here's the specific constraints. Like this is what everything is, because you can just pull it up. They have the documentation. So these are this is everything right here. So read files. You can search different text. Hold on. You can create folders within the directory. You can do get trading information, get chart history, right? So this changes the game. This completely changes what it's like to create an EA. My old videos, all my old videos are now completely outdated, where basically I would say like, this is the best way to create an EA. Go just tell GPT, give me a full version of the code, you know, then you paste the code into the IDE and you click compile. You get errors, you copy those errors, put them in, and say fix it. Give me another complete version that's fixed. Done. There's literally no point to all those videos that I made before now, because you can just do it entirely through here. Pull my skill and prep for the gauntlet looping. Gauntlet looping. What's Oh, I know it's looping. what's your skill called? Let me check it out. Do you have it on GitHub? Might as well check it out. One thing I don't do is loop, actually. I don't loop too often because I'm here. But I think if you do have a really good loop, then you can probably get away with doing a lot because it'll work while you're asleep as well. All right, got the EAIDE. Check that. One-shot prompting. Not ready yet, but what you're looking for is gauntlet looping. Google it. Okay. I feel like the new age, when people say Google it, means AI it, right? I guess that's probably a better option. I'll show you my skill, which is the Shuf Sand. Check this out. You're gonna like this. If you're this deep into it that you're saying things like gauntlet looping and like that, well, then you will appreciate what I'm about to show you. All right, check this out. Use Shuf. Yeah, I'll just say use Shuf Sand because it'll open up the sandbox to find some information about gauntlet looping. Let me make sure I got the spelling the way you spelled it. Gauntlet. Yeah, how make my skill allow gauntlet looping. Yeah, I will do that. I think this skill is the one that if I had gauntlet looping on it, which is I'm assuming is like the looping but on steroids and probably better. This skill, what it does is it's just an extension. Like it'll open up. It just opened up on my other screen, but it will open this up, which has an extension over here. But then the extension will have like all the network privileges, all the Google DOMs controls, and the other thing, the one thing that actually distinguishes this from all the other ones that do that, like Pinch Tab is an example, is it will actually log the network changes. So when you click a button, the network, Google Inspector, Dev Tools and stuff will show you the thing, but then it'll disappear really quickly. Because why? Well, because simply it's not that important. You don't log everything. You moved on, right? Some important things you log, some things you don't. This will log everything. And then in the future, when you tell it to do the other things that you want it to do, it actually remembers and it finds, okay, this is what happened. And it just increases the performance enough to the point where you can tell it, use Shuf Sand to build whatever you want to build, right? All right. So yeah, it just opened that up for me. But yeah, I got the Shuf Sand skill, which opens the sandbox, but I also have the same thing running here on my actual real one. And I have like a visualizer. Oh, full control opens up the, you know, the like this thing. Oh, it's not gonna open unless I actually use it. The debugger, that's what it's called. And then if I click on Open Visualizer, you can see my PC. So like this is a 2.5D canvas. So it's not 3D, so it's not too intensive on my resources. But yeah, you got this is my main folder. You got me excited. Now I'm just talking about everything. I'm gonna open source this probably as well. I want to open source a lot of things. Let's see what the gauntlet is. Gauntlet Loop is an AI prompting and multi-agent workflow. We'll go in. Gauntlet Loop is an AI prompting and multi-agent workflow popularized by Matt Schumer. It instructs an AI model to autonomously break down a complex goal, assign special builder agents to tasks, and pair them with the ruthless blind critic agent. Okay, critics is actually something that I'm lacking in my workflow. That tests and reject work until it meets or beats a real world standard. Very interesting. Very interesting. I shouldn't add this to my EA skill that I'm building now. I need to add it to my Bev skill. Yeah, it would fit very nicely to have something like that in the Bev skill. I'll show you the Bev skill if I can find it. Yeah, so this is the Bev. This is a similar thing. I want to make it 3D but not resource intensive. 3JS. 3JS. Okay. I'm gonna do this for later. I'm just gonna ask what's 3JS. JS. Why does it help conserve? Oh, you can't see anything. Why does it help conserve resources for 3D tasks? Yeah, I'll come back to that later and continue down that rabbit hole. Yeah, this Bev skill is basically audit, implement, verification. So in place of the critic, I have the verifier, which, by the way, triggers the Shuf Sand skill. So you can see it uses Shuf Sand. Now, this works really well for UI related stuff. This is what I noticed. If it's a UI, because one of the things that Shuf Sand has is the capture, which is kind of basic in terms of like using a bridge that has the DOM's controls. Capture, send it directly to Claude, like Fable, and then it sees the actual picture, and then it sees, okay, the button isn't where it's supposed to be, even though the code was written in a certain way. And then take that, pair it with the fact that I always ask Claude, like, which components do you think we should use? And then I check to see which components exist that the model was trained on. Because if you go, okay, so if you go and you just find like repos and GitHub stuff, that is nice. It's good code and it's, you know, it's great. Claude won't be as good at that, which it's unfamiliar with, as it would be with things that it's trained on. And I asked, what are you trained on the most? It said Shad CN, I think that's what it's called, or Shadkin, I don't know, Shadkin. That's one of the things that it's trained on very well. And so then I chose deliberately the things that it's trained on really well. And then I came up with the style, the UI style, which it almost never gets wrong now, called Pastel. Obviously, I made that into a skill because you can make anything into a skill. So now whenever I say like this skill, Pastel, then it will always default to the style. And I'll show you the same style. I'm not really that big on like UI. Like UI isn't what I'm trying to do all the time. But what's something that's pastel? Got the chat curator. Oh wait, that's the map. Check this out. What do you think of this style? I think it's beautiful. I think it's perfect. I have it with different colors, so it's not always going to be pink. But check this out. You got this globe. So that's a different repo. But what I'm talking about is this these sorts of buttons, like this. These are tabs. Putting in the keywords. So this is the UI that I've been using most of the time because of the fact that it almost never gets it wrong. Let me check Three.js now. You got me. You got me curious. Okay, so Three.js is JavaScript library that wraps WebGL and is now WebGPU in a friendly scene graph API. Instead of writing raw GPU code, you can work with high-level objects, scene, camera, mesh, material, light, and its renderer translates that into GPU draw calls each frame. Oh, so I use the GPU instead of CPU. That's kind of my understanding so far, which is perfect for me because I have two GPUs. The conserve resources part comes from where the work runs and how the library merges it. Okay, there's some points. GPU offload. That's basically what I said right now. Check really quick. Yeah, that's basically exactly what I just said. Your write worse WebGL, or you'd write worse WebGL. What does that mean? Oh, yourself. Okay, so it's a framework. So what I understand from that is basically it has a bunch of things already written, put together, and then you can use those pre-written things. So it's faster. Memory reuse. Geometries, materials, and textures are shared references. 1,000 meshes can point at one geometry and one material. Okay, this is where I get confused. I watched some videos about like AI and how it's going to change everything for physics and different meshes. And it's very interesting stuff, but I haven't studied that at all yet. So, wrong zoom button. So this is where I would continue to prompt and ask questions. I'll do that later so I can get caught up on it. But for now, let's move on. Retained scene graph. You mutate objects, the library only re-uploads what changed, rather than rebuilding the world every frame. That's something that my visualizer does. So I can probably, if not use Three.js, definitely add that concept. But Three.js does it, so I might as well switch to Three.js. Yeah, I'll think about that as well. One caveat, you've actually hit Three.js only saves resources if the render loop is allowed to idle. A request animation frame loop that redraws an unchanged scene, like the RCV3 flicker bug. It thinks I'm thinking about the flicker bug. That was fixed already. Yo, speaking of fixed, yesterday was very embarrassing. I showed everyone my product. Everyone, I think it was like 2 people. Showed everyone my product. And I was like, we're gonna do, this is gonna work. You can draw a chart on RocketChimp and it will interpret RocketChimp because that's my product, right? And then it didn't work. I fixed it last night. Now I can show you that it does in fact work. It was a silly little bug, but it was devastating to my ego and the actual project. Okay, here we are. I swear to God, if it doesn't work again after yesterday. Okay, just to catch you up on what the problem was, this is what I said. Okay, I said draw. Okay, I just put a line on the chart. What can you tell me about it? Where did I put it? And then it said, honest answer, I can't see it. Well, I spent a lot of time making sure that you can, so you should be able to see it. So here's a chart, and this website that I made will show you the chart. So basically you can choose a couple of currency pairs, and it'll find 14 from 14 sources the quota, and then it'll give you the best one, the most live one. So different brokers, different financial institutions, even if they're not retail brokers, have kind of a different quota for the exact price of things, and they sell to each other and they buy, and then they always kind of have a close enough quota that you can get the number, like a precise number, but still always varies, and that's basically the market because people buy and sell, and that's the whole point. So it switches between 14 just to find the best one, and you can put a line, and Rocket Chimp should be able to see it. So let's test it out. All right, you click here. This time I'll add a rectangle. Okay, I'll put this rectangle from here to here. So this rectangle has been added, and now I'm going to say, better work, please work. I just put a rectangle on the chart where, okay, I'm just saying, what can you tell me about it? Tell me things, Rocket Chimp, please. Please tell me things, Rocket Chimp. Come on. I believe in you. Come on. Ah, it worked. I do see, but wait. I do see that one. It's in your chart ledger rectangle. Okay. Narrow band. It reads like you're marking a consolidation zone or a specific support shelf. Yes, support shelf. Rather than a swing range, if that's where price stalled before a move. It could work well as a support/reference level for a pullback entry. Want me to check how price has behaved around this level that I just added, or that range, I guess, historically, or adjust the rectangle for you? All right. I'm going to say this. I added support. You add resistance. You know what bothers me so much? This is the next thing that I want to fix. And I tried, and it's not easy because Fable keeps telling me that it's my computer's fault, that it's not a problem within my site. And Fable might be right, but it'll be everyone's computer's fault because probably everyone will have the same issue. You know when you type and then there's like a little wiggly red line because you made a spelling error? Well, it doesn't happen here. And I make a lot of typos. I can quickly type things, but I make mistakes. So, see? No red lines. That's the problem. Anyway, I told it. I added support. You add resistance. It should add the line for me. It should. And it should interpret it and tell me if my support and resistance is good or not. And it can see a lot further back, which means that, it should tell me things. All right, let's try it out. Hope it works. Send. And I might as well extend this a bit. Never actually done this. Okay. What's going on? Okay, it's asking for permission. I'm gonna say allow always. Or allow. Okay. Get the point. So keep in mind, this is the quick think. The deep think won't make the mistake. Hopefully, we'll try. I don't know what it did here, but that was not what I wanted. So I'm gonna go on to deep think. I'm gonna say try again. Try again. This time, make sure you add the ranges correctly. I don't want to give it too much information. I don't want to say do this, use this price level. Even though like if I was actually trying to use it, I would be more specific. I would type correctly. I would prompt engineering is the whole thing. The reason I don't want to do that is because I built this thing and I want to give it the difficult task so I know which areas need improvement. But yeah, on quick think, fine. It doesn't have to be perfect every time, especially when it comes to more complicated tool calling features like this. Interpreting the chart and then also drawing things. But the deep think cannot make a mistake. Like this is the main thing, right? All right, let's see. Please work. Correctly. Come on. Correctly. Come on, Rocket Chimp. You don't have to be cute. I think it should say allow. Or no, I said allow always. Okay, it's pulling up. All right. Kind of fixed this. Kind of. I put it in the right level, but it's not a full rectangle. Like I'd prefer if it goes all the way, from here all the way down here. And then this is difficult. Like, do you put it here? Do you put it down here? Probably here, I guess. This is a much more significant zone, I would say. Yeah, it definitely needs more work. I'll write that down. I semi-fixed it. I thought I fully fixed it, but okay, what about lines? Let's just try something really quick. Add 2 trend lines. Place those correctly. Come on, do that at least, do that correctly. All right, let me just add this little note. Oh, I reached the limit. Yeah, we'll come back to this completely. Let's go back to focusing on fix. Okay, we'll come back to all this and then represent it all over again pretty much all the time because this is my product, right? Yeah. Does other things that work very nicely, but I want this to be like one of the main selling points, which is why I'm not running ads right now. I want to make this perfect, and which is why there's the beta. So if you want to try it now, you can get like a free $5, which can get you a lot of use. So let me know, message me, I'll give you the $5, and then you also look for problems with me. And if it is useful, obviously I would like to know that as well. All right. That was a nice distraction. We did some stuff. Productive distractions, basically. Okay, so this is the new skill we have here. And we'll just skim through it. Manipulate EA source through the meta editor MCP. Constants is edit. List schema. Okay, so I'm assuming there's some tools that it's putting. Toolbox, here's the tools. So for the create duplicate, which is probably the most important one for me personally, because of my workflow, see what it says. Create a new file. New EA overwrite defaults off. Keep it off. Okay, so basically when it creates a new EA, it doesn't rewrite or overwrite the old one. I think that's what that means. Create a new folder, subfolder. Duplicate equals read file, source, create new file. Yes, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Earlier I was saying that even if something isn't an actual specific function, if you just state the purpose and like this is what I want to use it for and these are the functions, it will know to just kind of create a function by putting together a sequence of the actually available provided MCP functions, API functions, those actual ones that have the underscore, right? Those ones are actually functions, like create new folder. But this duplicate is not a function. But what it decided to do duplicate, is take two functions, two real functions, this read file, and create new file. And now that's duplicate. And so in the future, if I say duplicate, it still doesn't need to go through every single function. It knows that's the one and then this one. So useful. And the format, here's the thing, the format for all of this is what I really care about. And the format so far has been correct. So I'm not going to go over every single one bit by bit. I'm just going to use this skill myself constantly. And whenever it makes a problem, so basically I'm using it, I say do this, and then I see a problem, there's something that looks wrong. If I change the skill and edit it, I'm going to say push to GitHub, and then everyone can have the updated version. I feel like that's the best way, really, to be able to get a lot done, which is why I'm not going to go over every single thing. But always be vigilant. Always look for those little issues. Okay. Okay, so it added a nice little assist extras section, which is just other things that could be used. Send web request. Write binary file. Or read. Yeah, write and read. I don't know if that should. I'll keep it there. It's fine. The process contract. Handshake. Okay. So basically go into the OpenID, make sure you have a connection. Resolve every target path with a local tool. Read current content of anything to be modified. Plan. I don't fully understand. Well, every EA IDE job runs this shape. Resolve is like whatever I ask it to do. So every time I prompt it, I'll do the handshake, make sure everything's there, resolve, then target the thing that I want it to target. And then plan, so figure out the number action sequence, tool plus path plus burst stop for executing. So put together basically a sequence from the available sequences. So take a bunch of those, put them together, make one long thing that it's going to do, and then execute. Finalize, format source code, compile, requires 0 errors. Yeah, and then it'll go fix the errors. And then surface. I'm thinking maybe add like a step between surface and finalize, like step over here, which says if you find an error, go back all the way to plan. Or something like to go check the plan. With Fable, probably not a good idea because that's just too much. With Opus 5 also, I think it's fine. Yeah, we're moving ahead. Like we're moving forward with large language models. I say we, like I'm one of the people creating these large language models. But they've gotten so good that it's fine. You don't need to have like too many steps to make sure that you get everything right. It already gets everything right. So I'm okay with this. I'll live with it. Read before write always. Good rule. New renamed. Delete any A, delete both. Dot and okay. New A scaffold. Never added. Okay, so the one thing that I want to add to all of this, and I really like it the way that it is. The one thing I do want to add is the organization element to it. So I'm gonna say this. When I ask you to duplicate, it's important to use specific and consistent naming conventions that are easy for humans, not just AI. This means that you'll simply go with V1, then V2, then V3, and so on. Unless explicitly instructed otherwise, like if I say create V 2.1 or 2.2 or 2.3, always when duplicating choose the subsequent number. I'm also going to say note this how do I phrase it? What I'm trying to say, what I'm thinking of is saying if I ask you to duplicate it, I'm also asking you to change it. Because I'm going to change it later. Actually, no, that's unnecessary. Doesn't need to know that. We'll keep it concise. I'm going to say this. Say keep modify the skill, but keep the concise language and clear structure. Actually, format. And format. I think format is perfect. Format. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Like this skill looks good. Obviously, we need to actually test it. We'll see how it works, you know, in practice. Does it actually succeed every time? Because it has to every time. Otherwise, what's the point of having a skill? Might as well just have, let's say, one long reference of all the available skills. define them all just one index, and say do this thing and have it go through all these skills with those definitions, which, by the way, totally viable approach. Totally viable approach. But still, I want to have like this EA skill, and I think it would be a little bit better than just going with a single index which has everything. Okay. Done. All right, now I'm going to ask it before I actually start using the skill. Quick. Will this skill enhance the process of creating new EAs? Specifically, the workflow, how do I say? Specifically, will it speed up the workflow and result in less token in the consumption, so in the consumption of less tokens because the API tools are organized and structured that's enough. No need to go too deep and be like, all right, is this an algorithm that we're using as an algorithm? Let's see what it says. Yes, it saves the discovery cost, exactly. So it doesn't go have to read everything all over again. No list schema round trip tool plus required params are pre-baked. Nice. And prevents the expensive failure mode. Invisible CLI compiles. That's one of the things that I'm afraid of the most is when you tell it to when you tell it to do something, it decides I'm going to use the MCP, I'm going to use this reference, okay, and like sorry, this API from the reference. It runs it, and then it says background task running. Retrigger when done, right? So the background task is running, and then it's just sitting there, and you're just waiting, and you don't know what's going on, right? And then something in MT5 fails, or something failed, and then it just doesn't come back. It doesn't retrigger. So when you tell it to do something long, like a really long process, and then it just kind of lags, or not like it freezes itself, it locks itself out because it just sits there waiting. That I think would have to be its own skill to prevent that, or like some sort of a safety skill. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't write your other skills in a way where the chance of that happening is significantly reduced. So that's what I'm thinking of now. Zoom in. Oh, wrong zoom button. All right, I'm gonna do this. Duplicate the adaptive moving average EA. Create a new one that we can work on. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say quick, which basically highly compresses language and makes it cost a lot less tokens. And I'm gonna switch from Fable to go to Opus low effort. If it doesn't work, that's my baseline basically. If that doesn't work and it doesn't actually do it, then failure. It needs to work on the lower tier model, basically the one that would benefit the most from having this process, the sequential process. Rules do this and then do this and then do this. It doesn't have to index, there's less chance of failure. Fable won't fail anyway, so you can't really test it properly on Fable. Opus, I've tried a couple times and it has failed a couple times, way before I started coming up with these sorts of skills. Opus 5, as soon as it came out. So now we're actually testing to see if it does fail or not. keep clicking the wrong zoom button. Got 2 viewers. Hi, whoever you are. I hope you're finding this useful. So, still waiting. Opus 5, I said this before, I think it's not nearly as good as everyone's saying it is. Only for UI, it's actually really good. Like UI sort of stuff, massive improvement. And obviously security, simply because unlike Fable, it won't just lock you out and say no. It said created. I don't see. Okay, I do see it. All right, what's with all this green stuff? Oh damn. Oh. Wait, hold on, hold on. Oh, I did not know this. If AI leaves a comment, it's green. Is it? Let me try leaving a comment. No, it's not. Never mind. Why is it green? It's never, maybe because it's just telling me like, hey, we're connected to the MCP, that's why these comments are green. And also, I don't like this. I don't like how there's so many comments. Or so many words in the comments. Alright, I'm gonna fix this. This is a difficult thing. I don't know if I I don't know if I should allow the comments to happen or not, because if I don't, it's fine with the new EA. Hello. Yo, dude, I'm midstream. Call you after? Okay, yeah. What's this? Honestly, I like this. It's more color than usual. There's like it's dark black and then gray. And then there's green stuff over here. I mean, it's insignificant, really. Anyway, so it worked. It clearly does work. Weekly Adaptive MA V2. Now I'm gonna say this. Now I'm gonna say, well, in order to like actually do it, let's work on the EA a little. So that way, I'm gonna work on the EA, get it to do some back tests, and we're really stress testing these two skills that we have. So the two skills, just in case anyone doesn't know, show you really quickly. In the EA skill set, we have two sub skills: the EA IDE, which is the one we're testing now, and the EA walk. And we'll use both of them, might as well, right now, and we'll see if it actually works. And obviously, we don't actually directly call them. We'll only use this skill, but it should auto route to either one of those. Which reminds me, let me ask really quick. Is the main actually update the main slash EA skill to include the EA IDE sub skill if you haven't already. Maintain the format. Maintain. 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 Okay. Maintain. Format will be maintained because you spelled it correctly. Already done. Cool. It's suggesting that I run a walk forward on the weekly adaptive MA2. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say there are currently 3 MA lines in the AMA EA, adaptive moving average. So I'm trying to confuse it a little because I want to do reasoning and spend this reasoning on other things. Make it 4 lines, including, or make it 4 lines. This must adjust the number of TP calls. What do you do? TP lines, take profit levels, TP levels as well, because there are more lines. Levies, but you can just throw an L in there. Very good, cool. Levies. What is levies? And why isn't it a typo? That is not leaves. Levies. Levies? Like a bunch of leverages? Levies? I must know. I must know. We'll run this and we'll go over to the Googs. I'll say define levies. A levy. Okay. I think levy. A levy is an elevated ridge or embankment, either natural or man-made, that runs parallel to the banks of a river or low-lying coastline. Okay, well now we know. It's a potentially very useful word, potentially. It doesn't have that much potential, but it has potential. And now we know what that word means, levy. Okay, we'll go back to actually doing things. That's taking a while. Not that many tokens though, and it's Opus, so it's not Fable. And ideally, what ends up happening is it succeeds, because if it succeeds, then what that means is the sequences, kind of the rules that we've set in place, have successfully made it so that Opus can focus on reasoning that regards the strategy, as opposed to reasoning regarding let's figure out what every single one of these functions means so I can choose the correct one. Because the functions, you don't need to go through the entire index and figure out what everyone means, because you know exactly which one you need. So, did it work? Did the EA skill prove to be useful? Probably a good place to go to find out isn't here, but here instead. What is this? Oh, good thing we went there, because this file has been modified outside of meta editor. Do you want to reload it and lose changes made? Yes. We're not losing changes, we're adding changes. Alright, so it's been modified. Now, Opus modified this Fable created EA, but it's V2. And we still have V1. And we should be able to create V3 and V4 and however many views we want. So, okay, still zoomed in, my bad. This is still working. See what happens. Got 3 viewers. Hi. Hello. New viewer. I see you. Welcome. If you're confused and you don't know what's going on, all I'm doing right now is creating the skill, the sub skills. Well, the skill and the sub skills of the skills. What are they? What are we doing? What's the point of all this? Well, to make a really long story short, you can type this. You can type EA, and then it should be automatically routing to all the other skills, like this one, or this one, or the future ones. And we're going to create a bunch of future ones, you know, in the days ahead, all of which serve 2 purposes. One is make it so that you have way less error because you have everything frozen. Like when it does the thing successfully once, make it into a skill and say, always do it exactly like this all the time. Don't do anything else differently. Write it into a rule. And that's all the skills. It's nothing too crazy. This isn't like a massive breakthrough skill. All the functions already exist inside the MCP. MT5 created the MCP so that you can basically control MT5 using a large language model like Claude or Fable. But then there's so many functions, so many options, and these options are these options. I actually have them. Called the ref, called the something ref, and I have it somewhere here. Oh, there we go. MQL5 ref. Okay, look. So these functions over here, all these functions, every single one of those is a function, has its own thing that it does. Get workspace info, read file, read file, write, and all these different functions. And what MT5 has to do, what Claude has to do every single time that you ask it to do anything for the MCP, is read every single one of those to make sure, absolute sure, that it's getting the right one, so I can give you what you want, which, depending on how aggressive you are with using this MCP, you can tell it place a stop loss or a take profit, or modify. This isn't place, this is modify. Modify your stop loss or stop. Move it, right? Now we're in a world where you can literally say, like to Claude or AI, enter a trade for me now. And then it does it for you, right? But like I said, it's going to have to go through all of them to make sure it has the correct one. We're not building the tool that makes sure that you can do everything correctly. We're building the tool that makes sure that you can create algorithms, EA's expert advisors, easily, extremely cost effectively. And we're kind of repurposing a couple of things within the MT5 platform so that you can kind of use more than one core. And what I mean specifically by that is here. So MQL5 or MT5, my bad. When you ask it using the MCP, or when you use a test, it'll use only one core. So if your CPU has 16 cores like mine, you sit there waiting forever when you don't really need to be. And so we've already successfully created the walk forward test that lets you do a walk forward test and use all your cores. And the way that we did it is, oh, I got a comment. Oh, I got more than one comment. My bad, I didn't see it. I knew to vibe code. Is there any tip? Yes, many tip. Yes, you wait forever. MT5, I'll give you tips in just a sec. Let me just finish this little story. Doesn't let you. I don't know why. It doesn't let you use all these cores. But what did we do? Well, we created symbols using Fable, not these ones, but basically it goes and it creates symbols with kind of made up data, but it's not made up data, it's just reorganized data, so that it's as if you're running a multi-symbol test, but you're not, you're using one symbol. And then you get to use all of your cores at the same time, which you can calculate how much it speeds everything up. It 14x's the speed, 14 times faster. Instead of 14 hours, 1 hour. And that's because I keep 15 and 16 disabled so that I can watch YouTube. You know, you gotta have some CPU. Anyway, I got a little carried away. My bad. But that's what we're doing. We're basically finding these little loopholes and we're trying to make it so that working with the MCP or with MT5 through the MCP is much more efficient. With Fable, full disclosure, you can get away with not using the skill at all and you'll be fine. It's just expensive. If you use the skill, it's going to be a lot cheaper. And you know, that rare one time that it makes a mistake, that can be removed. So that's really the point. But the real thing that I want personally, why I really want to make this skill, is because when I run out of tokens, when I'm really excited about an idea, and I'm going with my idea, and I'm typing it out, I'm doing my thing, and then I run out of Fable tokens, and I have to move to Opus because I hit the 50% limit, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to ruin my work that I did with Fable, because now I have to use Opus, and Opus is just inferior like that. That's what this solution for me is all about. Okay, tips. I'll give you some tips. All right, tip number 1 and most important tip, learn how to phrase things correctly, because this is a large language model. So little things, little changes, I promise you this. If you say, okay, if you say the next candle, which is completely fine, you can say that and it means the same thing, versus if you say the subsequent candle. These large language models are trained on data, and the data, you know, comes in different qualities. The people who say subsequent, nerds, have higher quality opinions about things, okay, and views. So in the forums, the person who said subsequent happens to be right more often than not than the other person who said the same. So when you say the subsequent, what does the training data do? This giant extrapolation machine? Well, it'll go with what you said. And so when you phrase things a certain way, and you're very structured, you're strategic, you're tactical with the way that you write things, then you just get better inference. In other words, you get better results. So that, I think, is the main thing. And just learn through the platform itself. In other words, you know, when you're prompting, ask for feedback. Just say, like, is this the best way to do things? What should I do? Tell me simply, and learn from it. You know, this is the new best way to learn. I learned today earlier. This guy suggested, I think it's a guy, Millsy basically suggested Three.js. I didn't know what that was, and I phrased it like this. I'll show you my. Just learned about Three.js. So he was telling me specifically about one of my tools, which I was talking about. So what's Three.js? It's fine. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I don't know everything. Why does it help conserve resources for 3D tasks? You'll notice that, well, I kind of messed up. I didn't put the bracket here. But you'll notice that I didn't just say, what is Three.js? What can I use it for? I was very specific about the thing that I wanted. And I was very specific about this part, conserve resources. So people who say conserve resources online probably know what they're talking about. I don't know. That's just a little assumption. And that's enough, just enough, not obviously not all of them, but that's enough to like pull yourself into the correct side of internet forums to find out the correct information and actually learn. And so that's a habit for me now, is I just, when I type very deliberately. And I might as well plug my game that I created. Little game, this is cute. Because if you can type correctly, then it helps. I don't know if correctly is the word, but alright, look. So this is me. This is them. And I need to type to beat them. Steel meets steel. Charge. Sword. Hold the line. Brave. You got the skills here. I vibe coded this, and the reason that I vibe coded myself, as opposed to using existing versions of it, because I basically ripped it off from another game, is because I wanted to be able to choose my own words. Because I don't want to learn how to write, you know, like cat, which is what the other game is called, Type Night. It's a really nice game. But I want to be able to choose words that I want to be able to type. Like repository. Oh, it's an example over here. Because while I was vibe coding it, I was telling Claude, like, I want to be able to type repository really quickly, correctly every time. Anyway, repository is one of those words. So if you seed it with that word, and then you click populate, it'll go and it'll find words that are associated with the word repository, and so you can learn more words and learn how to type them. So you can see like git, one of those words, metadata, curated, archives can be useful. Yeah, I don't want any of those other words, so what do? Just dump them. So I have this button here, dump, they're gone. And then, because they're dumped, I can populate again. So populate, database, install, and files. Didn't we add the word archive? Oh, archives over here. Here, this is archive. Anyway, registry. Okay, you have these now. And what you can do is you can start the practice. And it's an extremely, kind of cheap AI that was used for this game, but it is an AI. And so, like these guys right now, they'll come in with those words, but they'll still try to merge it with the theme of survive and like fight. GitHub or Git, a true warrior masters the files. I'm a warrior like that. Okay. Beware the mighty registry. A true warrior masters the meta data. It looks impressive just because you did it the first time, but it doesn't matter what words you use. It'll just say the same thing. A true warrior masters that, whatever the word is. And it is technically an AI. I was gonna think like, or I was gonna put a more complicated AI in there so it can actually form better sentences. I say AI, but I should say large language model. But I decided not to, because then you have to sit there and wait for it to load. So I don't want to do that. So it's fine. Like you can just write the same couple of words or a couple of phrases, but the words exist. Okay, back to like actual doing things. So it did work. I think. But what we'll do just to make absolute sure, play it and see. And I should see 3 or 4 entries and exits per kind of trade. I see 3 only. 1, 2, 3. And that's only 3, so what happened there? I see D, so I see this here. So it did add the 4th one, but it's not red for some reason. Compile, maybe that'll fix it. Well, here's to answer question, new to vibe code, any tips? Is basically, this is what you do. This is how you learn to vibe code. You use screenshot and you ask dumb questions. Always okay. I'm gonna do this. Copy. I'm gonna ask, does the fact that it's red specifically? I'll ask Fable because I want a good answer. I'll say quick so I can conserve a little bit of my tokens. I'll say quick. The edited file has some red and black, some red text and some black text. Does that make a difference? Also, I noticed that there were only, did I say 4? Yeah, I did say 4. 3 entries, not 4. How come? Alright, let's see what Fable has to say. I think that this is an Opus issue. Like Fable wouldn't have made that mistake. Hi. Abdul Had Khan? Abdul Had Khan? Abdullah. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. Abdullah. Hi. How do you code in Python? Yes, I built this. One of the big projects that I'm working on. It's not good right now, which is why I haven't open sourced it, but I will once I'm sure. I'm trying to use the GPU to do testing instead of using the CPU, which is the only thing that MT5 lets you do, and you need Python for that. But I vibe code, you could say, in Python. Like I'm delegating most of the syntax to Fable. But as long as you're good in English with if-then statements and you learn the correct words, English words, then you can get away with building a lot of things. I might as well show you what that looks like, and it was built with Python, the internals of it. So this is a tester. It basically works. It's like recreating MT5's testing services, basically the back testing specifically, and the compiler. But really, it's not a compiler. It's like a transpiler that happens first. Which my understanding of that is you're taking MQL5 code, the logic, converting it into Python. But then, in order to do that, you have to convert every single function, like API function, like IMA, like for moving average, turn it into Python, and then it works. And so the transpiling happens. That's my understanding so far. Long story short, it kind of works, kind of. But I want to go over specifically the numbers. If all the numbers work, then I'll open source it. Once I know the math is correct. I'm fresh at Python and I'm learning it. What all things should I do to learn it fast and be a coder? I'll tell you what you should do. You should think of yourself as an agentic engineer. Uh, Coder is while you're building code still. I want to ask if there are any tips for someone who's starting socket programming. Thank you. Same tip, honestly, for both of you guys. So if you actually want to build a lot of things, what you want to do, you want to make sure that you have very clear logic. If this happens, then that happens. Like if you do this, then do that. If you can get to that to I'll show you with an example because it's difficult to explain without showing. So okay. So this is the map for the auto tester that I'm building. And there you can see there's a lot of moving parts, okay? And the way that it takes time to build these things, but not anymore because of Fable. You can say build this piece. This is called like architecture. Build this dashboard. You know, if I click this button on the dashboard, it should go to that page. That's all I mean. If I do this, then do that. If you don't specify all of the little tiny pieces of if this happens, then do that, then what's going to happen is Fable will just go ahead and imagine whatever it wants. It'll do whatever it wants. It'll go in any direction it wants to, which makes it difficult for you later on to because then you have to do two things. You have to build the thing, but then you also have to strip away the extra stuff that it built that you didn't want it to build. But if you're just specific, this is exactly what I want, then you can focus on only the things that you want. So, you know, I have all these findings and and what that is I just told it like whenever there's anything, just put it in as a finding and then I'll come back and review it later. So you gotta stay organized like that. Let me see what you wrote. What would be a good system? What would be a good system? Specifications to run a long and good Python program. And what PC do you have? I'm planning to buy a laptop or build a PC. So, no worries. I have a couple more tips, and I'm gonna be open sourcing some of my workflows, which ties into the other question. So, first, my GPU. My system. I have a PC, the custom built PC, Z490 motherboard, pretty good CPU. Yeah, which one? But I have two GPUs, and like, these are my specifications. As long as you have a lot of cores, and a good clock speed, you're good. So, like this is my CPU. I have 16 cores, and you know you can you can get speed like fast CPUs, which is obviously the better thing to do. But if you're on a budget, you know some of them get really expensive. You want to make sure you have CPUs that can go pretty fast. This is a little overclocked. The base speed is 3.8 gigahertz, and this is the CPU. The GPUs, I have these two GPUs. So I've been using this one, the 3080 or 3060 Ti, and that was my GPU for a really long time. I just got this one, the 5060. Very like last week I put it on. And then this is onboard graphics. This is in the motherboard. But yeah, so that's my system. Yeah, the system, I would say this though, because with agentic engineering, that's right, I almost forgot to tell you what that means. So with agentic engineering, you're using the agents and they're running on the cloud. they're doing most of the work. So you don't really necessarily need a really powerful system anymore. But it's nice to have because you can do a lot of other things with it, like building softwares. You can run, if it's 3D stuff, on your own computer. I guess it depends on what you're running. But yeah, most of the work is done offline anyway, or off your computer anyway. So any system really will work, I would say. Not something too old though. Thank you. Yeah, so the agentic engineering thing, that's a good thing to talk about. Uh, Instead of thinking of yourself as like a coder, somebody who builds code and somebody who knows the syntax, in other words, you know where to put the bracket, you know how many dashes to put so that you don't have an error because you didn't write it correctly, you didn't format it correctly, which is the coder. Coder has to do that. An agentic engineer skips all this and just makes the agent do all that, the syntax, and focuses on the architecture. You focus on making sure that everything is built actually correctly. You have security measures put in place, and that's a whole world. You make sure that the UI mechanics function correctly. You click a button, and it actually does what it's supposed to do. And you just go over everything step by step using the agents, agentic engineer. At the end of the day, it is important to know a little bit of code. You want to know what some of the functions mean, and that helps you a lot when you are actually prompting, and helps you with the prompt engineering because you know what you're typing. You know, like do this instead of that. But at the same time, you know, you can almost do pretty much anything a coder can do as an agentic engineer without really knowing too much syntax. You just have to have good enough English language. Oh, not even English, just language. Be specific with your language. I didn't trigger this test. This is interesting. Did I trigger this test? Let's see. Oh wait, I am. I'm literally in the middle of a test. Alright, let's see what is said over here. Red versus black, purely cosmetic. 3 entries, you're almost certainly running the old binary. A newly combined .exe isn't picked. I'm just gonna say run the new one. I think that could have been flash quick. Run the new one. This brings up a really important problem, which is that MT5 often will request like approvals. Like you can't just have it, you can't just say do this thing and then it goes and does it. MT5 will show up with like a little window that says okay, like click OK and then it moves on. The reason I'm saying this is a problem is because if you have a really long like loop kind of a workflow that you want to take place, it won't work. It simply won't. And so we need to either find a loophole around that, figure out a way to have some sort of a persistent session. Maybe no. There's a lot of ways to do this, to figure it out. Mm. I think I'll set okay. I'll go with its suggestion. Right now what's happening is I think it fixed it. It just said that I accidentally clicked run on the old one, not V2, the modified V2 one. So what I'll say is, actually I'll say revise the logic because it was written by Opus. I want to make sure that the EA IDE skill works. I'm not trying to fix Opus for now. So I'm just gonna say quick review the logic, make sure it's good, and adjust the distances. The ATR was it ATR or ADR? Doesn't say anywhere here. The multiplier, I'll just call it the multiplier. It'll know what I'm talking about. Or not. Adjust the multiplier. Okay, if I say multiplier for the 4 values, it'll have enough information and it will know which one it is. Just the multiplier for all 4. All 4 as follows. 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and 1. That's perfect. I think it'll even yield more profit. We'll see. Either that or I'm being dyslexic and it would be better the other way, where instead of 0, 7, 8, 9, and then the big one is you do 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3. Just to show anyone who's not picking up what's going on. I think I have the visualizer. Yeah, this page, please show. Wonder if it's still there. Sometimes they disappear out. No, they didn't. Yes, this is exactly what I'm trying to show you. All right, you see these lines? What's going on right now, the strategy, is it will enter once you get past a certain level and the slope reverses. So you can see here it crossed the 50 threshold and the slope kind of reversed. Here it crossed the 50 threshold, but the slope never hit 0 and switched. Otherwise it would have entered somewhere around here. Okay, so it's not enough to just curve like over here. You got that curve, the slope went down. It has to do both. It has to meet both conditions. Okay. High school student learning Python. Nice. Keep learning. Like I said, agentic engineer. That's the best way forward. Don't worry too much about one type of code or one type of language. Figure out logic, like think logically. Say if this, then that. And build architecture, structures. Because pretty soon, nobody really needs to code. The AI will do it for you. But structure and actually building a robust system, that's something that humans will continue to do. Okay. Yeah, here's 2 situations where it did actually happen. It met both conditions. Now what happened is the entry, for example, I'll show you here. Here, this is a good section. So it entered here. It always enters in the direction of the mean. So it entered 3 cell orders here and exited all 3 over here. Okay. Now, same is true over here. So it entered down here, okay, and then it exited up here, and I don't know if you can see it, but it actually did come back up because like you hit the mean. But I think it didn't trigger those exits. Or no, it did trigger. Yeah, it doesn't show. This isn't the best visual. I'll come back and actually work on this EA in detail more later. For now, we're just stress testing, and I want you to know what that prompt that I just made means. It just means instead of having 3 lines, like we do now, have 4. Instead of having 3 profit targets, have 4. And yeah, the multiplier, almost forgot to say, that middle line over here is 1. And then I believe this is 0.75 and this is 1.25. So yeah, so we can have lines here like 1, 2, 3, or up here like if they're bigger and they're further. So yeah, that's basically what's going on now. Now you know exactly what it is and what it isn't. Yes. So I'm gonna say this. Show me the visualizer, same as you did before, which shows me those lines. Run using stars for when the entry condition was met. Yes. I really want to spend time working on the actual strategy. But I know that building this tool is a smart move. It's like doing a lot of work now that makes the future a lot easier, as opposed to just approaching building the actual EA now. And if I do that, yes, I am happy. But then every next EA is going to just be a little bit slower than it otherwise would be to build it. Brother, honestly, what the fuck are you doing? Like, honestly, are you actually trying to learn? Because if yes, please stop whatever you're doing and actually start learning a language. Like what? What language? I have some of the basics of MQL5. Like I know this. You want to have like inputs, parameter inputs. You just add the input in front of like bool or one of those sorts of forget what it's called, but basically you add input, and double kind of works the same, but it's not like input. And then you got like really basic stuff, like if you put comments, it doesn't change anything. Sometimes I'll manually go and change like the parameters, you know, you change it, the parameter itself, compile, and then it saves. Look, I get it. Like learning a language feels like you know more, and then you can do better. But think about it this way: if you know that there's globals and there's functions, if you just know that, and then you prompt give me a new global for this specific purpose and write the function for it. And then you add the global and the function, and it's localized enough, like the global and the function. And you added every single one of those globals and functions on your own, and you know exactly what they do and what they don't. Then how much syntax do you really need to know? I'll tell you how much. As much as I do, because I'm able to build pretty much whatever I want now. And I mean whatever I want without language. I replaced, and this is something that a programmer would have done, I replaced this app, which I used to pay for, to mirror my, start with Java, everything else becomes easy afterwards. Like 3JS is Java, right? Is 3JS Java? Brother, you are trying to make a toolbox, not actually learn everything. No, I am trying to learn. Always, you can build stuff and learn at the same time. But this iPad, for example, I replaced this app. This is what programming is my understanding what it's all about. You can just program things, and it lets me mirror my iPad into my screen. I used to pay for this service. Like I used to actually pay to have this option, and then I just told Fable, like, look, replace this. And then it did. And I realized that there's a lot of stuff that you need to know about, like, like the first intro thing of programming is localhost. And there's like a bunch of memes. Like, why isn't localhost working on the other computer for someone else, That's like the intro for me to realize, okay, I should probably learn stuff outside of the little world of MQL5, It's probably going to be useful for me if I actually want to build stuff. And start learning. I'm out because this won't help you in the long run. Okay, bro. We'll see. We'll see. They're coming for you. The large language models, they're coming for your job. It'll be very difficult for you in the future. Because people like me who don't know anything are going to build things that you can build too. That's what I think is going to happen. But actually, thank you for commenting and checking in. If you do have something useful, like a specific language that I should learn and things about the language I should learn, let me know, because I do want to learn. It's not like learning is this thing that only happens this one way. You can learn by building, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Building things and learning. And what I'm building is this skill, this EA. For this skill. Okay, 4 lines. And it worked. Let's zoom in. Okay, so it's showing me the 4 lines, and it does revert back to those lines. That one time that it did enter, it came back. Zoom out a bit. And yeah, I would probably want to loosen up when I do really spend all the time working on the EAs. I want to spend time choosing better parameters and maybe loosening some of it up, because in most cases it comes back. But then there are certain times like this one where you really don't want to enter after it went too far down here, and happened again over here also. So GBP JPY, and I did the math, is actually one of the most mean reverting, actually the most reverting currency out there. Like, if you just were to calculate specifically, very specifically, like which currency comes back to its previous price the most, and you'll find that GBP JPY does it the most. Like, do a bunch of different math, bunch of tests, see which one it is. It's this one. And so for a mean reversion strategy, this is the ultimate one. The problem is that it also is one of the most volatile currency pairs. So it can do this, really. Look at this. crazy. That is huge. So imagine you entered down here, you'd be screwed, right? So that's the risk with Great British Pound and Japanese yen. All right, before I end today's session, I want to test for one more thing. I don't know what exactly, but I just want to make sure that this actually works. So let's choose one of those options that exist and see how it performs. Hmm. Maybe another type of test. All right, final type of test. This is what I will do. I'll say adjust. We'll zoom in. Adjust the parameters to be. We already adjusted the parameters. It does work. I'll just say run the walk on the new one. But first, create a new version. Duplicate, yeah. Just so I can trigger both skills. Duplicate it. Duplicate the AMA. And yeah. And then run the walk forward test. Okay, so I didn't actually even type EA this time. So I didn't even put the actual skill there because it's in the context. I want to kind of see if Fable will decide to use the EA skill. Because if it is actually useful, then it will use it, right? Which has happened with my Bev skill before, where I would say like do this really big structured plan to do this thing, and it'll automatically trigger the Bev thing, which is good. You know, use Bev if you can. So in this case, because it's so embedded within like the context, like the chain of thought probably has so much /EA stuff related in context learning, then what ends up happening is it is more likely to trigger it. So in a new session, it probably wouldn't, but in this session, it probably would. And so we'll see what happens. Wonder if we can catch it before it happens. Also, this is really annoying. I think it's not closing the new charts that it opens. That needs to be added as well. I think I will add like a dedicated rule after like everything that we build, or all the skills are done and they're together. Like a dedicated rule, which is like whenever you do anything, close the charts. Don't just open a bunch of charts and leave them. And then I end up looking at a screen like this, a bunch of random charts everywhere. Overall, today was pretty productive. Last time, I don't want to jinx myself. Last time, I said we were done with that first skill, the EA walk forward And then for the next 2 days, I was working on it. This time, don't want to say we're done, but like we're basically done. But I don't want to say it. So we're not done with this sub skill. Okay. And duplicate V2, V3. Okay, so that's nice. It decided to do V3 on its own. And re-identify internals. Span for the V3 walk forward. Okay, I'll choose, this is the wizard. I'll choose the full 24 months. And window. I'll go with 1.5. Why does it say refused? X refused. Eats 61 days. 3 million. 12 million clone cap. What does that even mean? Okay, I'm gonna write this down because I'm gonna come back for it later. Yeah, clone cap might be the same. It might just be a really simple thing that I shouldn't be worried about at all, which is cloning the chart, which is basically there's a limit to how many charts we can create. And then simply doing this, which can be automated, closing them, solves the problem completely. Or it might be a similar thing, but over here with these, like a cap over here. So I think it's a simple thing that I really shouldn't worry about at all, but I still want to look into it later. In the meantime, we'll go with 1.5 and we will run the test. We'll see what happens. I hope it actually does well, even though, like I said, I don't want to get too into creating the EA right now, but I still have hope. Like, let's build a good EA, you know? Might as well always try if you can. It won't look exactly like this. It will look like the visualizer will look like this. And it will probably have a lot more green. Yeah, probably is gonna have a lot more green actually. Because this is the MT5, or yeah, this is the stock MT5. My screen's glitchy, but the OBS isn't. Weird. Yeah, the stock EA isn't very good. Alright, this is it. That's probably it for today. We'll see what the result is before we close the session. See the YouTube stats. Got a lot of engagement today. Thank you to everyone who came in actually. I wonder if it stays as comments. Maybe if I leave a comment and then for engaging with me. Yeah. Yeah, full conversation. I really need to fix, while we're on this, I really need to fix the OBS issue. Because I have this control panel, but the problem is the control panel doesn't have the chat, and so now I'm chatting using a while viewing, and then it confuses me because sometimes it says 0 concurrent viewers, and sometimes it says 1, and I don't know if it's me, am I talking to myself or not, or is anyone there? I think we peaked at 4 today. Oh, chat rate went down. What is it? Okay. Maybe there's another OBS option. Docs. Chat. Okay. Okay, it did work. Alright, tomorrow I'm gonna try the same thing.